I decided to guide an expedition up Mount Everest, even though I'd never done any kind of mountaineering. So I went to my local public library and I got people signed up to go, and it ended up I got the whole city of Oakland to sign up and go with me. And somehow, miraculously, we got everybody to base camp. It took over 1,000 big jet airplanes, 400 people, 500 people each per jet. And so we're in base camp, and then we climbed up to Camp 1 to get acclimated at 21,000 feet. And Camp 1 was like a tired city where everybody had severe headaches from oxygen deprivation. It was not a really friendly environment. And then after acclimating at 21,000 feet, we all came back to base camp and partied we partied. We drank a bunch of dehydrating alcohol, and then we all took selfies with the mountain. And then it started to storm. We stayed in our tents and stared at the ceiling. It cleared up. I made a painting of the mountain on a rest day. And then we hiked up to Camp 1 and spent the night again. And the next day we all felt pretty good, so we hiked up to Camp 2, and here's a picture of Camp 2. We rested at Camp 2, 21,000 feet above sea level for 2 days, and then we went up to Camp 3. Camp 3 is 24,500 feet up the Lhotse face. Lhotse is a high peak, aka mountain right next to Mount Everest, aka Chomolungma. Mount Everest is really Chomolungma. Then we walked back down to base camp to rest before the final push. And at base camp, it began to blizzard for 5 days straight, and then we got a reprieve. So here we are walking up again through the Khumbu icefall on our way to Camp 1 when we spent a cold night in Camp 1. It was windy and cold, but we were okay. And then we hiked the next day to Camp 2 in wind and light snow. And the next day we all felt surprisingly good and made it to Camp 3. One of us almost slipped down the mountain from Camp 3, but they were able to arrest their fall and avoid total disaster. The next day we hiked across the Yellow Band, or Ordovician limestone, at 25,000 feet. And then we made it across the Geneva Spur and hiked right into Camp 4. Here we are getting into Camp 4. It was impressive, all 408,000 of us up there at 26,000 feet. All the men, women, and children of the great city of Oakland. And we slept really well at Camp 4, even though we were in the death zone and our bodies were now consuming themselves in an oxygen-deprived environment at 26,000 feet. We woke up at 10 p.m. to get a jump on the summit push. So when we left, it was pitch dark, and all we had to go on was the light of our head torches. The sun came out at 4 a.m. after 6 hours of climbing. You could see all Oakland strung out along the summit ridge. Here we are with some of us on the summit ridge at 27,000 feet. The weather was perfectly calm. At 11 a.m., the whole city of Oakland summited and was on top of the world. We congratulated each other and started our descent, except many were exhausted from the climb and had trouble moving. They had spent every last bit of their energy on the ascent and now had nothing. A storm came and caught all of us above 28,000 feet. We couldn't see, and the weather became very cold. All of our oxygen ran out. We all became weak and sat down and waited for the storm to stop. But the storm didn't stop for 3 days and nights, so we all died from hypothermia, all 408,000 of us. The media mediatized our story, and the mountain became our mass grave. It was still beautiful, only there were 408,000 dead people frozen to the top. Then a huge asteroid with the profile of Richard Nixon collided with Earth, destroying all life. Here's a picture of the snow woman that we saw that I forgot to mention earlier.